Hello and welcome to another video from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Today I'm joined by David to take a look at the latest lineup and injury news from this week's press conferences. David, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, no, but thanks. I'm in uncharted territory. This is normally something that Neil sorts out, but not with us today. So I'm stepping in, and hopefully, I don't sound too Geordie, but hopefully people can cope.
No, you've given him a rare day off, which is great. So he's probably sunning himself by the Geordie shores. No,
Well, you never know.
Okay, over to Liverpool, I think, first. So first up, there was a number of injury concerns there ahead of their very good away match to Huddersfield. So what's the latest from Jurgen Klopp?
Well, it's kind of almost exactly what we expected. Obviously, we had lots we'd like to know, mainly about Salah. Some people obviously want to hear about Mane. Some people even want to hear about Van Dijk. We were given the usual Klopp anticlimax. The quote that we got, and he's handled this very well. He just comes out right at the beginning of the conference and says, "We're pretty sure that Naby Keita is not going to be available, but with all the rest," so he always likes to group them together so that people don't ask more specific questions. He says, "With all the rest, we'll have to see how it develops." So obviously, we've all kind of known for the last week or so that with Salah, it's going to be a late fitness test. We were hoping that maybe he'd already had that and he'd passed it by now, but it sounds like he hasn't yet, and there still needs to be a decision to be made. Which is frustrating, of course, because I think Salah is one of these people who a lot of people are maybe considering moving on, and it would have been nice to have something a bit more concrete from this press conference before maybe switching him to Sterling or making that decision to hold him. So a bit frustrating, but I guess it's what we expect from Klopp. So there was an interesting line from David Wagner, the Huddersfield manager, at his press conference. Obviously, him and Klopp know each other very well from their time in Germany and from their time here as well. And he said that Klopp is a big fan of smoke screens, which I think we can all definitely agree on. The way that he's put this quote out about Salah, he hasn't even mentioned him by name. He's grouped all those potentially injured players together and talked about them in one go. So smoke screen there to try and avoid answering questions on them. And then Wagner then went on to say, I think all of those players will play based on what he's heard, which, to be honest, is probably about as good as what we've heard. So it's not really, a massively inside track, but he's a man who knows Klopp well, and he thinks that all of those guys will play. As I said, it is just a bit frustrating that we don't get that official confirmation, because it does just leave that nagging feeling at the back of your mind with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound. I mean, Klopp's comments about Van Dijk do sound more promising. He says no problems, so he's got no problems. Sounds like he's going to start then.
Well, I mean, there's the context around that particular quote was that I think the idea is that there is still some pain there. He didn't really go into too much detail. The journalist asked him whether or not he had actually been playing with 2 broken ribs. Klopp kind of just didn't really answer that particular part of the question. Said that Van Dijk has been playing with pain. Said a lot of professional footballers have to do that as part of the job. So when he says has no problems, I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell. Things maybe get a little bit lost in translation, even with Klopp. Obviously, English is not his first language. So it's hard to tell whether or not he means he's definitely fit or he's still got some pain, but he doesn't mind it, if that makes sense. So, still a slight element of doubt. But, I mean, as I said, I think they will play. But, Klopp is never going to say outright that they'll play. That's just what he's like.
Well, yeah, he's a pretty resilient man, so he's probably like, a bit of pain, doesn't matter, I can play, boss, that kind of thing. What about Man City? They're another team with a great fixture here, home to Burnley. There were a few issues there, particularly around De Bruyne. So what's the latest there?
This has surprised me. I thought that we might maybe hearing this maybe next week. But Pep has come out and said that Kevin De Bruyne is available. So that's good news for anyone who's picked him as their differential on the Scoutcast. Because he could play, but he did say that Pep did say that he's not entirely certain as to whether or not he will start, which I mean makes sense. He's been out for a while. Personally, I'd expect him to maybe feature in the last half an hour when Man City are already 2 or 3-0 up, give him a nice spell. But it's interesting. It's earlier than I expected for him to come back, and it could change the landscape of how we sort of look to Man City in the coming weeks. A lot of people have, myself included, said that Sterling, for example, very difficult to fit in if you want to have a Liverpool midfielder. Having De Bruyne at 9.7, just it's not easy, but it's easier perhaps to find some room for him. So very exciting news that he's going to be back.
Okay, yeah, that is. It does sound though it's not. Will he start though? So if someone's minded to get De Bruyne in, they might be slightly jumping the gun. I suppose if you're a risk taker, get him in now.
Yeah,
but possibly
it would be a risk.
Sounds like to leave him a week.
Yeah, I think leave him a week. I think that's what we've sort of been thinking for when he does come back. Let him just kind of resettle. As Pep himself has said, he's not certain that he will start. So yeah, a little bit of risk there.
Okay, another team that was seen to be full of injuries over the international break was Bournemouth. Now, a lot of people have got Fraser, we've got the likes of Wilson and King. So what's the latest there for Bournemouth?
Yeah, this is another frustrating one. It's almost a carbon copy of the last time that Ryan Fraser had an injury after an international break. We thought we might get some proper clear-cut quotes from the manager on whether or not he's going to play. We just the same again. We haven't. He's basically said they're going to have to see. He's actually said that this hamstring problem has been troubling him for a little while, and it's going to be a late decision. He went on to clarify that the injury isn't actually that serious, which I guess is kind of obvious from the fact that he's had it for a while and he's still been playing. He also said that if he misses this week, he'll almost certainly definitely play next week, because I think it's a case of, do they give him that extra bit of rest to deal with it? As a Fraser owner, very frustrating, because I don't really know what to do with him. People could maybe, if they want to, because that fixture's so good against Southampton, and if you've got Fraser and you have the spare transfers, maybe Brooks is someone to look at, because it sounds like he's going to be okay. Because personally, I just there's with Stanislas in the conversation, it would be very, very easy for Howe just to play him. And give Fraser that rest, because why risk making it any worse when you've got a player like Stanislas, who we know can do the job, to play exactly the same position. Josh King feels a little bit different. The quotes seem a little bit more positive, and of course Eddie Howe doesn't really have the same luxury up front, I don't think, to replace Josh King, because I think Defoe and Lys Mousset are the two alternatives, and haven't really been involved too much. I think Jermaine Defoe's been a pundit more often than he's been an actual player this season. So, in that particular situation, and the quotes, as I said, a bit more positive. They're hoping that they've been talking about momentum, saying that he really doesn't want to have to not start him because he's been playing so well. So I think King will play. Fraser, not so sure.
Yeah, I'm a Fraser owner. I wasn't the last time. I know lots of people said, right, Fraser, injury doubt, put him on the bench, get rid of him. And then he came in with 18-point return, his highest of the season. For me, he's in my first 11. He's not going anywhere. I'm not going to risk that again. But it does sound like it's pretty unlikely that he's going to play. I think, given his comments about that injury, that sounds like he's either going to play and start, or he's just not going to play at all. I don't think we're going to get a 5-minute. It seems pointless giving him a 5-minute run out, given what he's been saying about that injury. Does that sound like a fair assessment of the Fraser situation?
Yeah, I think so. Because it sounds like it's a case of, as you say, if he plays that, there's no point in playing those last 5 minutes. If you're not going to start him because you want to give him rest, why would you then play him at the end of the game? Especially if you think that he's definitely going to be available for the start of the next game if you don't play him. So that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, and he has options in that role. You mentioned Stanislas there.
Yeah, Stanislas is really the key there. Yeah. That he can rely on him. It's almost a like for like swap, and we know that Stanislas can do the job. So.
Okay, so elsewhere then, there are three I picked out there, but what other injury news should fantasy managers be looking at?
Well, I know that some people have been waiting for an update on Wilfried Zaha, and they've got one, but it's the classic update of, well, we don't know. It's the kind of the recurring theme of anyone who's got a doubt for this particular week. The manager has said, we will see, because it's the same with Zaha. Sort of added sort of a little bit of extras on that. We've basically been told that Zaha hasn't actually trained since he got that injury. So personally, it sounds unlikely he's going to play, because obviously he hasn't trained. That means he's not trained for the entirety of the international break period, or most of it. And then it's only a few days now, so he's basically touch and go to train tomorrow because their game's on Sunday. But of course, they're kind of short on options as well, because basically Alexander Sorloth has been ill, so he's a doubt. And the other player is Max Myers, also had the same illness. He's a doubt as well. Interestingly, those kind of things maybe might not mean too much to if you don't have Zaha, for example. I know that a lot of people have been getting rid if you've got Zaha, I would move him on at this point with quotes like that. But also anyone who's maybe looking at Lucas Digne because of the potential that he's been showing, the fact that Palace seem to be having a bit of a forwards crisis could bode well. Could be looking at a clean sheet there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I picked him in for my scout squad picks, and I've got my fingers crossed he might make it into the actual scout picks. But I think he's for exactly that reason. I think he's looking good for a clean sheet, and he's got that attacking threat as well. But yeah, it sounds like anyone who's got an Everton defender or Pickford playing, this sounds like the match to play them. Anything else?
Yeah. So we've got an update from Chelsea, which is kind of newsworthy because of what it doesn't mention. And it's no surprise really that we knew that Eden Hazard didn't pick any injuries up over the international break. It's nice to hear that is the case. He's been rested, doesn't have to worry about him at all. It's mostly minor issues for Chelsea. So Ethan Ampadu, serious injury, couple of weeks, doesn't really affect FPL that much. He's a youth player and no one was really looking at him. But interestingly, there's a minor injury for Ross Barkley, which could rule him out of the game. And obviously he's been playing very well. But of course, we know they've got other options to slot in. Some people have been wondering about Antonio Rudiger. And again, they might play, they might not. But thankfully, largely the people that most people are interested in at Chelsea, like your Alonsos and your Hazards, everything's all fine there, given the all clear with Chelsea.
And I just wanted to pick up on Arnautovic as well, because he left the Austria camp early. There seemed to be a prearranged agreement, but he's got this kind of niggling knee injury, but he still keeps playing. Anything? Any latest there?
Yeah, so there was a quote yesterday from Pellegrini, who because obviously as you just mentioned, he didn't play the full quota of games for Austria, so the journalists asked him straight up right at the beginning what's going on with him, and he said no injury. He said he's got. They basically, his words were, we have to be careful with his knee, but it's not something that's stopping him from playing games. So it kind of sounds a bit like what the situation was with Aguero, where it's not really an injury, but he's not 100% fit, but not to the point that he can't play. So personally, I think that Arnautovic will probably start this week. It puts me off a little bit. I've sort of mentioned a few reasons why I'm not looking at Arnautovic just yet, because he could have his minutes managed as we have seen this season. But the official line is no injury at this point.
Okay, that sounds. It sounds okay for those that have got Arnautovic. That sounds very promising. But for those without him,
it's promising enough if you've got him. Definitely,
perhaps wait a week or two. I think game week 11 is when their fixtures start to really kind of steamroller into the blue or green, depending on which colour you use on a season ticket for easiness. But for now, David, thanks a lot for that, and good luck with the game week.
Cheers, and to you as well.